was just going to ask you, it feels like a fundamental turning point, and obviously we don't have crystal balls, but what's your sense of how this changes the momentum and perhaps maybe brings an end to the conflict?
Well, bringing an end to the conflict is that's a tall order, and maybe further into the future than we can really peer. Since I think you said we have no crystal balls, right? But let's still look though at what choices this forces on Putin. For example, I mean, he's the guy who's thrown back on his heels, who has to figure out what the hell do I do now. Um, he obviously wants to stop or reverse the gains that the Ukrainian forces have made. But how does he do that? You know, he can bring more troops from the existing front lines in eastern Ukraine so as to thwart the Ukrainian advance. He can redeploy from elsewhere in Russia. He can issue a new draft call, conscription, grabbing people on the street. He can increase military attacks on other targets in Ukraine, including cities and infrastructure. Believe me, since I'm going to be there next month, I'm worried about the attacks on cities and infrastructure. But there are problems with each of these options for Putin. Um, if he brings troops from elsewhere in eastern Ukraine, he's going to slow or maybe stop his own offensive. He won't be able to say, we're gaining ground. He won't be able to say, we now really control and occupy all of the provinces of Ukraine that we formally annexed. With both redeployments from elsewhere in Russia and new conscriptions, there are questions about the quality of the troops that you'd have, also about the political consequences. In Russia, people have assumed that Putin really wanted to avoid new draft calls, and he's been successful at that. Can he continue to turn back this new offensive by the Ukrainians without more troops? Um, and if he increases military attacks on other targets in Ukraine, the cities and infrastructure that I mentioned, it may do little to push the Ukrainians back from Russian territory. So he's got a set of options, none of them looking really good, at a time when he's sitting down at the table with his generals, with his intelligence officials, and he doesn't have a lot of confidence in them. So he is, let's say, not a happy guy this week.